Hi everyone, how are you? Today I'm going to show you how I make these little head wraps that I've been wearing recently. My roots have got to the point where they just look horrific and I decided to start hiding them. In a lot of places around the world, hairdressers are closed. Here in Australia, hairdressers weren't officially closed, but a lot of them, including my hairdresser, did make the decision to close for a little while. So I haven't actually had my roots done since December. I couldn't get there before all of this went down and she closed her business for a while. So I'm waiting till she opens again, and in the meantime I'm hiding my roots under these head wraps. They're really easy to make. You can use any kind of soft fabric that you've got. You only need about a metre of it. So I'm going to show you two different methods. This one is all done on a sewing machine, and then I've got a chiffon one that I've done all on my overlocker. After I've shown you how I make them, I'll show you how I tie them to get this look. To make a head wrap, you're going to need about a metre of fabric. So I've got a metre of this lovely soft rayon fabric that I got from Spotlight. I'm going to show you how to stitch this one on the sewing machine. And then I've got a metre of this leopard print chiffon, that was from Lincraft, and I'll show you how to stitch that one on an overlocker. So the first thing you need to do is straighten your edge up. Look at this, that's how mine came cut. That's just crazy. So I'm going to see where that narrowest part is. And a lot of fabrics you can tear. So I'm just going to make a little snip here. And then hopefully it should tear a nice straight edge for me. It's going to make it much easier to finish the edges if it is straight. Oh my god, I need to cut in even further than that, it's so wonky. Once you've got your cut edge nice and straight, take your tape measure and measure 18 inches. And then at the 18 inches mark, I'm just going to make a little snip and tear the whole strip again. This fabric's 1.5 meters wide, but narrower fabric works just as well. And then I'm going to do the same again, measure another 18 inches. And tear a second strip. For this fabric on the machine, I'm going to create a French seam along the top and down the back. So I'm now going to put my two pieces right sides outwards, so wrong sides together at the selvages. So I'm creating a really long strip. So I've got twice the width, so it's a 3 meter long strip once this is joined. But again, yeah, if you've got narrower fabric, it will work just as well. So I'm going to pin that together along the selvages. This will all be cut off, this selvage part, when we do the French seam, so don't worry if you've got it printed like this. So that's our two pieces pinned wrong sides together at the selvages. Next, take your tape measure, measure from the top of your head where you want the head wrap to sit, around the back of your head to about the base of your skull. My measurement is 12 inches, but yours might vary depending on the size of your head. Next, pin along one of the cut edges, stopping at whatever the measurement you just took around your head was. So mine was 12 inches, so I'm going to stop there. So now you should have your two pieces wrong sides together, pinned along the cut edge and along the selvage edge. Next I'm going to stitch where my pins are. Once you've stitched it, just cut down so there's a really narrow bit of fabric left next to your stitching. And I stitched right near the edge here, so I don't need to trim much off this side at all. Next, head over to your ironing board and press those seams open. Once you've pressed it, you can now turn it right sides together. And then pin along that seam again, making sure you got your seam right on the edge. And this is going to create our French seam, so we're going to be hiding those raw edges inside the next line of stitching. Next I'm going to sew along both sides again. Make sure you stitch far enough in that you're hiding the raw edge from the first line of stitching. and try and keep your seam nicely on the edge here. So that's how the seam looks on the wrong side. And if I turn it in the right way, you can see we've just got a nice neat seam on the right side, and those raw edges are hidden well and truly inside that. Next, we're going to sit here and sew the edge. And instead of trying to pin all the way around the edge, I sew it twice because I find it a lot easier. These little bits, if you've torn it, these little bits are going to get on your nerves, but just cut them off as you go. I don't pin any of this, I just hold it. You can pin it if you want to. So the first thing I do is turn my selvage in to just past where the printing stopped. And I'm sewing right near the very edge here. Next I'm going to take my scissors and just trim really close to that stitching. Being careful not to cut the fabric on the right side. Make sure I'm only cutting the bit that I've turned under. Cool, so I'm going to cut all the way along until it looks like that, and then I'm going to do exactly the same on the other end. Next, starting at one of the selvage edges that we've just cut, I'm going to do exactly the same on the torn edges, but this time I'm just going to fold in as little as I can. I'm just going to pop a little pin in the corner just to help me get started. And again, trying to turn and stitch as little as possible. Once you've stitched once around all four sides, all you need to do is turn it in again and stitch a second time, and that's going to hide the raw edge. And again, I don't pin if I don't have to, I just hold it as I go. This is where having your edges really straight helps. If it's wonky, it's a lot harder to do this hem on. So that's the finished effect. So you've got a nice neat edge on the outside. You do end up with 2 lines of stitching on the inside, but I don't think it matters because it's a lot easier than trying to pin all the way around the edge with a double fold when it's this narrow. So I'm going to go ahead and finish stitching around all 4 sides. So this is where we're up to. We've got this sort of squared off hood shape at the top, and then the opening from there, and then the 2 long bits either side. So next I'm going to get to the same stage on the chiffon one on the overlocker, and then I'll show you how to do the gathering and finish them. So for the chiffon, I've straightened my edge, cut my 2 18-inch strips and pinned them together at the selvage, and I've pinned my 12 inches down the side as well. Now you can just stitch this part straight on the overlocker, but my overlocker is a bit rubbish, so I'm actually going to just machine stitch along these 2 sides before I start the overlocking. Next, set your overlocker up just on a regular stitch, and then I'm just going to overlock along where I did the machine stitching. You don't have to machine stitch first, you can just overlock straight away if you want to. Just find my overlocker doesn't always pick chiffon up very well, so it makes it a little bit easier this way. Next, change your overlocker to its rolled hem setting if you have one. If you don't, you can just stitch like this around the edge, but I like to use a rolled hem. Excellent. And then using my rolled hem, I'm just going to stitch with the right sides up all the way around the edge. When I get to the selvages at each long end, I'm actually just going to curve the corners so I can do one continuous line of stitching rather than having to do corners. Okay, so here's my chiffon scarf with the rolled hem all the way around the edge. I just went back and fixed up that little bit where it fell off the edge there. So next, I'm going to give both of these scarves a good press, and then I'll show you how to do the gathering. Now these are pressed, the last thing I need to do is gather the front part. So this is the bit that was the selvage, the two selvages that we joined together, not the bit down the back that then opens up. So I'm going to gather by hand the whole of this seam to the point where it turns the corner. So I've got a double piece of thread, and I'm going to bring it up from the inside, and then I'm going to tie a knot just to make sure it's really secure. And then I'm just going to go in and out next to the seam here just to gather this up. My stitches are about 1 centimetre long. Then I'm going to stop when I reach the point, so where it goes around the corner, and just gather it up. But I'm just going to do one more stitch right into that corner there, and then I'm going to pull it tight. I'm going to knot it off. Now, I don't machine stitch mine afterwards. I like the sort of 3D-ness of the gathers. I find if you machine it, it flattens it a bit. So what I do to make it a bit stronger, I just put my needle back through all those gathers to the front, pull it tight again, and then go back through them all to the back, pull it tight, and then I sort of come back through halfway and tie a knot and cut my thread so it's sort of hidden amongst the gathers here. So I'm going to do the gathers on the floral one, and then I'll show you how I tie them. Okay, so to put my head wraps on, I just pin my hair up out the way. You can leave it loose if you want to though, especially if you're only trying to hide your roots. Take your gathered bit and put it where you want. So you can do it central. I like mine one side. That's kind of where I have my parting, so I think that's why. Okay, I'm going to attempt to tie this just using the screen on my camera. So put your gathers where you want them and take your long bits and cross them over at the back of your head and pull them tight, and you can sort of arrange this part as you go. And keeping them tight, bring them up to where you want to tie them. So I'm going to do mine right where the gathers are and tie it. Like that. And then what I do, because these bits are really long, you don't have to make it this long if you don't want to, but I like a big dramatic bow. So I tie it once, so I've got 2 loops. Then I pull these 2 bits backwards and tie another bow, so you end up with sort of 4 loops. And then you've got your long bits there, which I sort of bring around one side, and that's my favourite way to wear mine. You can just tie it at the top and bring it round and tie it at the back again for more of a sort of scarf look. You can tuck the ends in if you want to as well. There's probably tons of different ways to tie these. So just have a play and see what you can come up with. So there's my little leopard print chiffon one. They're really light and really secure. You can put some bobby pins in if you want to as well. So there's that one. And then with the rayon floral one, I'm going to tie it exactly the same way. but because it's only printed on one side, I just have to be a little bit more careful to hide the non-printed side as I do it. So put that on and cross it over, and you can see it's kind of folded over there, which with the chiffon didn't matter, but for this one it does. And then bring it round, so you could just tie it at the back and have long sort of scarf look. Grabbing it so that the non-printed side's on the inside as I bring it up and round. And I'm going to tie that again on top. And then I'm going to tie, again, bring the printed side to the outside. So I can do that afterwards. Let's tie my bow. You can use any fabric that's nice and soft. And then once I've done that, I kind of just turn them in the other way if I need to bring out the printed side. And I love the size these rayon ones give you because they're not quite as soft and floppy as the chiffon. As a finishing touch, if you want to, just put some little flowers in. Because, you know, it's not quite dramatic enough. Gives that lovely sort of retro pin-up feel to it. There you go, that's the second headscarf. And that's it. So they're easy. If you've got a long scarf, you can just fold that in half and do the stitching on the two sides and then do the gathering. You don't even have to worry about edging it if it's the right kind of dimensions. And yeah, I just find that they stay on better with the gathering at the front because it makes it a little bit more head shaped than trying to tie a flat scarf around. So this is what works for me. You can take this and sort of change the sizes to suit your style and choose your fabrics to suit your style. But yeah, I'm really happy with these, and I think even after I do get back to the hairdressers and get my roots done, I'll still be wearing these because I think they look fabulous. Thanks for watching. I'll be back soon with more videos.